Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the large window of the TFS horizon, watching the massive space station grow larger as they approached. The station, called Confluence Point, was huge, bigger than most cities back on Earth. It was built by many different alien species working together, and it floated in neutral space where no one owned it. This was where all the important talks happened between different worlds. Jake had been to the station many times before. Usually, the meetings were boring. Trade agreements, border disputes, complaints about shipping routes. Nothing that kept him awake at night. But today felt different. The message they received 3 days ago had been short and strange. All species were required to attend an emergency meeting. No details. No explanations. Captain Lisa Harper walked up beside him. She was Earth's top diplomat, someone who had spent 30 years talking to aliens and making deals. She never looked worried, but Jake could see the small lines around her eyes today. "Any idea what this is about?" Jake asked. Lisa shrugged. "Could be anything. Maybe the Corvin are complaining about our mining operations again. Or the Altarians want to renegotiate the grain contracts." The horizon docked with a soft bump. Jake and Lisa walked through the connecting tube into the station. The artificial gravity felt a bit lighter than Earth normal, and the air had that recycled smell that all space stations shared. Aliens of dozens of different species moved through the corridors. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others floated, or crawled, or moved in ways that hurt to look at. They made their way to the main conference hall. It was a circular room with seats arranged in rings, like an ancient theater. Each species had their own section with chairs or platforms designed for their bodies. The human section was small compared to most others. Humanity was still young compared to the other star-traveling species. Jake and Lisa took their seats. Around them, representatives from across the galaxy filled the hall. The Corvin delegation sat in their tall, thin chairs, their gray skin looking almost metallic under the lights. The Altarians floated in their water-filled tanks, their tentacles moving slowly. The Zephyrians stood in their section, their crystal-like bodies catching and reflecting light in rainbow patterns. A deep tone rang through the hall, and everyone fell silent. The Zephyrian ambassador, Velthara, moved to the center of the room. She was tall, even for her kind, and her crystalline body seemed to glow with inner light. When she spoke, her voice carried clearly to every corner of the hall. "Representatives of the galaxy," Velthara began, "we gather today to address a growing concern. For too long, one species has expanded unchecked across the stars. One species has claimed world after world, system after system, with no regard for the balance of power." Jake felt Lisa tense beside him. They both knew where this was going. "The humans," Velthara continued, "have grown too powerful. In just 1,000 years, they have spread to over 800 star systems. They build their cities, dig their mines, and expand their influence while claiming to be peaceful. But we know better." Murmurs rippled through the hall. Some species nodded in agreement. Others looked uncertain. "The Hegemony Coalition," Velthara announced, representing 47 species and over 12,000 worlds, has reached a decision. Humanity must be stopped before they threaten us all. She turned to look directly at the human section. "We offer you this choice, humans. Surrender 80% of your territory to coalition control. Submit to our guidance and live under our protection. Accept limits on your expansion and technology. Do this, and you may continue to exist as a minor species under our care." The hall was completely silent. Jake could hear his own heartbeat. He looked at Lisa, expecting to see fear or anger on her face. Instead, she was smiling. "And if we refuse?" Lisa asked, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. Velthara's crystalline features seemed to harden. "Then you will face the combined might of the coalition. Our fleets will sweep through your space. Your colonies will be occupied. Your worlds will be redistributed to species that can use them properly. You will be scattered to the edges of the galaxy, if you survive at all. Lisa stood up slowly. Jake watched her, wondering what she was thinking. The other human representatives in their section looked nervous, but Lisa seemed calm. "Let me make sure I understand," Lisa said. "You want us to give up most of our worlds because you're worried we might become a threat someday?" "You are already a threat," Velthara replied. "Your rapid expansion proves it." Lisa nodded thoughtfully. Then she started to laugh. It wasn't a big laugh at first. Just a small chuckle, but it grew louder. Soon, she was laughing so hard she had to hold her sides. The sound echoed through the silent hall, and every alien in the room stared at her. "I'm sorry," Lisa said, wiping tears from her eyes. "It's just ... This is adorable. You're actually afraid of us." The Corvan representative stood up, his tall frame rigid with anger. "You dare mock this assembly?" "Oh, I'm not mocking anyone," Lisa said, still grinning. "I'm just amazed. You've been watching us for 1,000 years, and you think we're weak. Because we haven't fought any wars. Have you not?" Velthara asked. "Your species has enjoyed unprecedented peace. You have grown soft and comfortable." Lisa's smile got even wider. "We've enjoyed peace, yes. But soft? Oh, honey, you have no idea what you're talking about." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. There was something in Lisa's voice now, something that reminded him of predators he'd seen in nature documentaries. "The thing is," Lisa continued, "we humans learned something a long time ago. The best way to avoid a fight is to be so prepared for one that nobody wants to start it." "Empty words," the Corvan representative said. "Your military is tiny. Your fleets are mainly cargo ships and explorers. You have no weapons of significance. Is that what you think?" Lisa asked. She pulled out a small communication device. "Jake, would you mind sending a message to Earth for me?" Jake nodded and activated his own device. "What's the message?" "Tell them, Protocol 7. Full activation." Jake sent the message. It would take several minutes to reach Earth through the quantum communication network, but he knew it would get there. "What is Protocol 7? Velthara demanded. "Oh, just a little housekeeping," Lisa said. "You see, we've been expecting this conversation for about 800 years. We're actually a bit surprised it took you this long." The hall erupted in confused voices. Representatives from dozens of species all began talking at once. Some demanded explanations. Others called for order. The Corvan and Zephyrians looked angry, while some of the smaller species looked worried. Velthara raised her hand, and the noise died down. "Explain yourself, human." "We've been watching you too," Lisa said. "All of you. We've seen how you form alliances against successful species. We've studied your tactics, your technologies, your weaknesses. We've been preparing for this day since we first left our home system." "Preparing how?" the Altarian representative asked, her translated voice bubbling through her water tank speakers. Lisa's smile turned cold. "That would be telling, but I'll give you a hint. Remember all those peaceful research stations we built? All those mining operations? All those harmless cargo ships moving between our worlds?" She paused, letting the words sink in. "What do you think we've really been doing for the past 1,000 years?" Before anyone could answer, Jake's communication device beeped. He looked at the message and felt his blood turn to ice. "Protocol 7 confirmed," he read aloud. "All systems active. Ghost fleet standing by, ready for your orders." Lisa nodded. "Thank you, Jake." She turned back to the assembly. "So here's what's going to happen. You have 72 hours to reconsider your ultimatum. I suggest you use that time wisely. You cannot threaten this assembly." Velthara's voice rang with anger. "I'm not threatening anyone," Lisa said. "I'm just letting you know that we're ready to defend ourselves. And trust me, you really don't want to find out what that means. She gathered her things and stood to leave. "Oh, and one more thing. The next time you want to start a war, you might want to pick on someone who hasn't spent a millennium getting ready for it." Lisa walked out of the hall, with Jake and the other human representatives following. Behind them, the assembled aliens erupted into chaos. Angry voices, demands for explanations, calls for immediate action. As they walked through the station corridors back to their ship, Jake caught up with Lisa. "What exactly did we just activate?" he asked. Lisa looked at him with that same cold smile. "Everything, Jake. We just woke up everything." General Marcus Stone had been sleeping when the alarm woke him. Not the kind of sleep that came naturally, but the deep hibernation that let humans live for centuries. He had been asleep for 50 years this time, waiting for something that might never come. But now it had. The alarm was not loud, just a steady beat that meant only one thing. Protocol 7. Marcus had hoped he would never hear that sound. He climbed out of the hibernation pod in the deep command center, 5 miles under the Colorado mountains. The air was cold and dry, and his muscles ached from the long sleep. Around him, dozens of other pods were opening. Men and women who had been sleeping for decades were waking up, all because of a simple message from space. "Status report," Marcus said to the nearest officer, a woman named Colonel Amy Price who looked like she had just woken up too. "Protocol 7 confirmed, sir," Amy said, reading from a glowing screen. "Message came from Captain Harper at Confluence. Point, the aliens gave us an ultimatum," Marcus nodded. They had planned for this day. Every human leader knew it would come eventually. Other species always got nervous when someone new became successful. It was like a law of nature. "How long do we have?" he asked. 72 hours, sir," Marcus smiled grimly. "More than enough time." He walked to the main command console and placed his hand on a scanner. "Computer, activate Eternal Vigil Protocol." "Full authorization, Stone Alpha 77. "Authorization confirmed," the computer said in a calm female voice. "Eternal Vigil Protocol active. All sleeper systems awakening. Estimated time to full readiness, 18 hours. Across human space, things began to change. On the mining world of New Denver, the workers stopped their machines and watched as huge doors opened in the mountainsides. What came out were not more mining robots, but assembly lines that began building weapons and ships. The mining operation had been a cover for the largest weapons factory in human history. The miners themselves began changing too. They pulled off their work clothes and put on military uniforms that had been waiting in sealed lockers for centuries. These were not just miners. They were soldiers who had been pretending to dig for metals while actually building humanity's secret arsenal. Dr. Amanda Cross woke up in her laboratory on the research station called Bright Hope. The station was supposed to study new farming techniques for colony worlds. But when Amanda activated her security codes, hidden panels slid away to reveal rooms full of weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Amanda had spent 300 years designing these weapons, testing them in secret, making them better and deadlier. She had never wanted to use them, but she had never stopped improving them either. "Computer, show me current readiness levels," she said. Numbers and charts filled the screens around her. Weapon systems across human space were coming online. Ships that had been disguised as cargo haulers were shedding their fake outer hulls to reveal warships underneath. Space stations that looked like peaceful research labs were extending weapon arrays that had been hidden inside their walls. The colony world of Haven, families went about their normal morning routines. Children went to school, adults went to work. Everyone acted like nothing had changed. But if someone looked carefully, they might notice that the school teachers were walking a bit straighter, that the shopkeepers were checking hidden communication devices, that the farmers were looking up at the sky more often. These people had been living double lives for generations. They were colonists and families and workers, but they were also soldiers. Every human settlement was both a home and a fortress, ready to defend itself at a moment's notice. Commander Ryan Blake stood on the bridge of a ship that did not exist in normal space. The ship was called the TFS Phantom, and it was floating in a parallel dimension where the laws of physics worked slightly differently. Around him, 10,000 other ships waited in the same hidden space dot. This was the Ghost Fleet, humanity's secret navy. For 800 years, these ships had been built in hidden shipyards and stored in pocket dimensions. The aliens scanning human space had never seen them because they were not in normal space at all. Ryan had been born on a ship like this. His parents had been Ghost Fleet officers, and their parents before them. Whole families had spent their lives maintaining this hidden fleet, waiting for the day they might be needed. "All ships report ready, sir," his communications officer said. "We can deploy to normal space in 6 hours." "Maintain position," Ryan ordered. "Let them think we're scrambling to build defenses. The longer they underestimate us, the better." Engineer Karen Wells was having the best day of her life. For 60 years, she had been designing quantum gates that let ships travel instantly between star systems. Everyone thought she was just trying to make trade and travel easier. They had no idea what the gates could really do. Karen stood in the control room of the central gate station, watching as her hidden programming activated. The quantum gates that connected human worlds were not just for transportation. They were weapons. With the right commands, she could use them to move entire fleets across the galaxy in seconds, or trap enemy ships in folded space where they would be crushed by gravity. "All gates responding to new protocols," her assistant said. "We can deploy fleet assets to any human system in 30 seconds or less." "And the special functions?" Karen asked. "Ready to activate on your command. We can isolate any star system from the rest of the galaxy, or turn the gates into gravity weapons." Karen nodded. She had spent decades perfecting these systems, hidden inside technology that everyone thought was peaceful. It was like building a sword and telling everyone it was a farming tool. Back in the deep command center, Marcus Stone watched reports come in from across human space. Every hidden facility was waking up. Every secret weapon was coming online. Every disguised soldier was remembering their real job. The aliens thought humans had grown soft during their 1,000 years of peace. They thought humanity had forgotten how to fight. They could not have been more wrong. During the 1,000 years of peace, humans had been busier than ever. They had built the largest military force in galactic history, but they had hidden it so well that even other humans sometimes forgot it existed. Every colony, every research station, every trade ship had been designed to serve the war effort when needed. "Sir," Colonel Price said, "we're getting reports from our observation posts. The alien fleets are mobilizing." Marcus looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed alien ships gathering at staging points throughout the galaxy. It was impressive, the largest military force most species had ever seen. 5,000 ships from 47 different worlds. "How do our numbers look?" he asked. "Ghost Fleet reports 10,000 ships ready for immediate deployment," Price said. "Planetary defense systems online across all colonies. Hidden weapon platforms activated throughout our space. Conservative estimate, we have a 15-to-1 advantage in firepower." Marcus nodded. The aliens were bringing everything they had, and they still did not have nearly enough. "What about the architect's gift?" he asked quietly. Price lowered her voice. "The weapon is ready, sir. Dr. Cross confirms that Project Endgame is fully operational." Marcus felt a chill. Project Endgame was humanity's most terrible secret, a weapon given to them by the mysterious architects before they disappeared. It was so powerful that Marcus hoped they would never need to use it. "Sir," another officer called out, "we're getting a message from Captain Harper." Marcus activated the communication screen. Lisa Harper's face appeared, and she looked tired but confident. "Marcus, how are we looking down there?" she asked. "Better than expected," Marcus replied. "Full deployment in 12 hours. The aliens have no idea what they're walking into." Lisa smiled. "Good, because I just got word that they're moving up their timeline. They plan to attack in 48 hours instead of 72. Why the rush? They think we're panicking. Their scouts are reporting lots of activity in our space, and they're interpreting it as desperate preparation. They want to attack before we can get our defenses ready." Marcus laughed. "If only they knew we've been ready for 800 years. How ready are we really?" Lisa asked. Marcus looked around the command center. Officers worked at their stations with calm efficiency. On the screens, reports showed system after system coming online. The greatest military force in galactic history was awakening from its long sleep. "Lisa," he said, "I think it's going to be the shortest war in history." The attack came at dawn on the colony world of Harmony. Admiral Kethver of the Corvan fleet watched through his ship's viewscreen as his forces moved into position. Below him, the human colony looked peaceful and defenseless. Small buildings dotted the landscape, connected by simple roads. A few cargo ships sat at the spaceport, and some farming vehicles moved slowly through the fields. "Pathetic," Kethver said to his officers. "They have no orbital defenses, no military installations, no sign of resistance. This will be over in minutes." Behind him, his tactical officer checked the readings. "Sir, we're detecting some underground facilities, but they appear to be mining operations. No weapon signatures." Kethver nodded. The humans had made this too easy. His fleet of 200 ships was more than enough to crush one small colony. After this victory, the other human worlds would see the hopelessness of resistance. "Begin the attack," he ordered. The Corvan ships opened fire on the colony. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, targeting what looked like the main power plant and communication center. The buildings exploded in bright flashes, and smoke rose from the burning ruins. "Colony defenses neutralized," the tactical officer reported. "No return fire detected." "Excellent," Kethver said. "Begin landing operations. I want this world occupied within the hour." Transport ships carrying Corvan soldiers descended toward the colony. The humans seemed to be running around in panic, abandoning their homes and fleeing into the countryside. It was exactly what Kethver had expected from a soft, peaceful species, but Jack Turner was not running in panic. He was running toward his real job. Jack had been pretending to be a farmer on Harmony for 15 years. He grew crops, raised animals, and complained about the weather just like any other colonist. But under his farmhouse was a command center that could coordinate the defense of the entire star system. As the alien ships landed, Jack reached his hidden bunker and activated the real defenses of Harmony. The mining operations that the aliens had detected were actually weapon emplacements, built deep underground and camouflaged to look like industrial facilities. "All units, this is Control," Jack said into his communicator. "Execute Mousetrap Protocol." "Repeat, execute Mousetrap Protocol." Across the colony, the panicked humans suddenly stopped running. They pulled weapons from hidden caches and took up positions that had been planned years in advance. The fleeing colonists were not running away from the aliens. They were running to surround them. The first Corvan soldier to realize something was wrong was standing in what had been the town square. He was looking around confused when the ground under his feet opened up. A weapon turret rose from the hidden bunker and fired a single shot. The soldier's armor, designed to stop most known weapons, simply evaporated. All around the landing zones, the ground opened up to reveal gun emplacements, missile launchers, and shield generators. The defenseless colony was actually a fortress that had been disguised to look harmless. "What is happening down there?" Kethver demanded from his ship. "Sir, we're taking heavy fire from concealed positions," his ground commander reported. "The colonists are not civilians. They're soldiers, and they're using weapons I've never seen before." Kefver stared at the tactical display. Red markers were appearing all over the colony as hidden defenses revealed themselves. His landing force was being torn apart by weapons that seemed to ignore shields and armor. "Impossible," he whispered. "Intelligence said they had no military installations." "Sir," his tactical officer said, voice shaking, "we're detecting massive energy signatures from orbit. Something is coming up from the planet's surface." Kefver looked at the main screen and felt his blood turn cold. Rising from what had looked like empty plains were huge structures that his sensors had somehow missed. They were weapon platforms, bigger than some of his ships, and they were all pointing at his fleet. "How did we not detect those?" he asked. "Sir, I think they were underground. The entire planet appears to be a fortified military installation, disguised as a farming colony." The planetary defense platforms opened fire. Beams of energy that made Kefver's own weapons look like toys reached out across space. The first beam hit one of his cruisers, and the ship simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not damaged, just gone. "All ships retreat to safe distance," Kefver ordered. "We need to regroup and call for reinforcements." But as his ships tried to pull back, space around them began to shimmer. Quantum gates opened, and human ships began appearing. These were not the cargo vessels and exploration ships that Corvin intelligence had reported. These were warships, sleek and deadly, with weapon arrays that hurt to look at. Commander Ryan Blake stood on the bridge of the TFS Phantom as his ghost fleet materialized around the Corvin forces. For 800 years, these ships had waited in their hidden dimension. Now they were finally going to do what they were built for. "Target the command ship," Ryan ordered. "Non-lethal weapons only. We want prisoners." The Phantom fired a single beam at Kefver's flagship. The beam passed through the Corvin shields like they were not there and struck the ship's power core. Instead of exploding, the ship's systems simply shut down. The lights went out, the engines stopped, and the ship began to drift helplessly. "Corvin vessel, this is Commander Blake of the Terran Defense Force," Ryan said over the communication channel. "Your ship is disabled. Surrender immediately, or we will demonstrate our lethal capabilities." On the bridge of his darkened ship, Kefver could barely believe what was happening. His entire fleet was being captured or destroyed by human forces that had appeared from nowhere. The easy victory he had expected had turned into a complete disaster. "Sir," his communications officer said, "running on emergency power. The other attack fleets are reporting similar situations. Every target was a trap. The humans were waiting for us." Kefver closed his eyes. How had they gotten it so wrong? Intelligence had reported weak defenses, scattered military forces, and a population that had grown soft during centuries of peace. Instead, they had found professional soldiers using advanced weapons and tactics that made his own forces look primitive. "Sir," the officer continued, "we're receiving a general communication from the human fleet. They want to talk." "Put it through," Kefver said. Captain Lisa Harper's face appeared on the screen. She was sitting in what looked like a command center, and she was smiling. "Admiral Kefver," she said, "I hope you're beginning to understand the situation you've put yourself in." "You were ready for us," Kefver said. "This was all planned." "Of course it was," Lisa replied. "Did you really think we would expand across the galaxy without preparing for someone to challenge us? We've been expecting this war for 800 years, but our intelligence reports were exactly what we wanted you to see. Every piece of information you gathered about human military capabilities was carefully prepared to make you underestimate us." Kefver felt sick. "How long have you been watching us?" "Since the day you formed the Hegemony Coalition. We've had agents in your governments, observers in your military, and listening devices in your most secret meetings. We knew you were planning this attack before some of your own officers did. On the tactical display, Keffer could see the full scope of the disaster. His fleet of 200 ships was surrounded by a human force of over 1,000 vessels. Similar scenes were playing out at every other target system. The greatest military operation in Corvan history was being crushed by an enemy they had completely underestimated. "What do you want?" Keffer asked. "Right now I want you to send a message to your leaders," Lisa said. "Tell them that the first phase of this war is over. Tell them that in 6 hours, we captured or destroyed 60% of your coalition's military forces. Tell them that we did it without losing a single ship. Impossible. Check your casualty reports. You'll find that human losses total exactly 0. We've been so prepared for this war that it's not even a challenge." Keffer looked at his tactical officer, who nodded grimly. "Confirmed, sir. All our fleets are reporting the same thing. Massive losses on our side, no confirmed human casualties. The second phase of this war will begin tomorrow," Lisa continued. "We will demonstrate what our real weapons can do. I suggest you use the time to convince your leaders that surrendering is better than being completely destroyed." The communication ended, leaving Keffer alone with the wreckage of his fleet. Around him, human ships moved with casual efficiency, collecting prisoners and salvaging disabled vessels. They worked like people who had done this many times before, which Keffer was beginning to realize they probably had. "Sir," his tactical officer said quietly, "what are we going to tell the coalition leaders?" Keffer looked at the stars where human ships now controlled the space that had been his. "The truth. We picked a fight with the wrong species, and now we're going to pay for it." The emergency meeting of the Hegemony Coalition was unlike anything in galactic history. Leaders from 47 worlds gathered in the secure chambers beneath the surface of Hegemon Prime, their capital world. The mood was dark and desperate. Chancellor Vorthik of the Hegemony looked around the table at faces filled with fear and confusion. 3 days ago, these same leaders had been confident of victory. Now 60% of their combined fleets were gone, captured or destroyed in what was supposed to be an easy first strike. "How did this happen?" Vorthik asked. "Our intelligence was thorough. We studied the humans for decades." General Zixith, the coalition's military commander, stood up slowly. His normally proud bearing was broken, and his uniform looked wrinkled and dirty. "Chancellor, we need to face the truth. Everything we thought we knew about humans was wrong." He activated a holographic display that showed the aftermath of their attacks. Red markers indicated destroyed or captured coalition ships. Blue markers showed human forces. "The difference was overwhelming. They were ready for us," Zixith continued. "Not just ready, but they had been preparing for this exact scenario for centuries. Every human colony we attacked was a military fortress, disguised as a civilian settlement. Every cargo ship we tracked was actually a warship in disguise. But our agents," protested Ambassador Kreldin from the Altarian delegation. "We had people watching human space for years. They fed our agents." "False information," Zixith replied. "Everything our spies saw was carefully staged to make us underestimate human military capabilities." Vorthik slammed his fist on the table. "How could they hide such a massive military force?" "Because they're smarter than we gave them credit." Came a new voice. Everyone turned to see Dr. Yul Tara, the Coalition's chief intelligence analyst. She looked exhausted, like she had not slept in days. "I've been analyzing the data from our attacks," she said. "The humans didn't just hide their military. They've been running the most sophisticated deception operation in galactic history." She brought up new displays showing human space. "Look at their peaceful expansion. Every colony was placed at a strategic location. Every trade route was designed to support military logistics. Every research station was actually a weapons development facility. The mining operations on their frontier worlds? They were building ships and weapons underground. The agricultural worlds? Training grounds for soldiers, the scientific expeditions? Reconnaissance missions to study our defenses. The room fell, silent as the scope of human preparation became clear. "How long have they been planning this?" asked Counselor Hexara from the Vorthan Empire. "Based on the evidence, I believe they started preparing for this war the moment they left their home system," Dr. Yul Tara said. 1,000 years of preparation. 40 generations of humans have lived their entire lives getting ready for. This day, General Zixith activated another display. "It gets worse. We've identified at least 3 different types of human weapons that we've never seen before. Their energy weapons pass through our shields like they don't exist. Their ships can appear and disappear at will. And they have some kind of technology that can disable our vessels without destroying them. What about our reserves?" Vorthik asked. "We still have fleets guarding our home worlds." "Sir," Zixith said quietly, "I don't think our reserves will make any difference. The humans captured Admiral Kefver's entire fleet without losing a single ship. Not one. Either they're incredibly lucky, or they're so far ahead of us technologically that this isn't really a war. It's an extermination." Across the galaxy, in her laboratory on the research station Bright Hope, Dr. Amanda Cross was having a very different kind of meeting. She stood in a room that looked like something from a science fiction story, surrounded by holographic displays showing weapons that could reshape reality itself. "Status report on project categories," she said to her assistant, Dr. Peter Kane. "Category 1 weapons are fully deployed," Peter replied. "Energy disruptors, quantum shields, and dimensional gates. All performing as expected. Category 2. Planet crackers, consciousness viruses, and temporal manipulators are ready for deployment. We've tested them in isolated systems. They work perfectly." Amanda nodded. Category 2 weapons were the ones that could end civilizations. She hoped they would never need to use them. "And Category 3? She asked. Peter's face went pale. "Project Endgame is operational. The Architect's gift is ready for activation." Amanda felt a chill. Project Endgame was humanity's most terrible secret, a weapon left behind by the mysterious architects who had mentored humanity centuries ago. It was so powerful that just testing it could be dangerous. "Let's hope it never comes to that," she said. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the TFS Phantom, Commander Ryan Blake was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. His ghost fleet had been revealed, but it was only part of humanity's true strength. "Report from Sector 7, his communications officer announced. "The Corvin Reserve Fleet is moving to intercept our forces." "How many ships?" Ryan asked. "Approximately 1,500 vessels, sir," Ryan smiled. "Send them a message. Tell them they have one chance to surrender before we demonstrate our Category 2 capabilities." "Sir, they're refusing to surrender. They say they'll fight to the last ship." "Very well. Signal Dr. Cross. Tell her it's time to show them what we've really been building." Back in her laboratory, Amanda received Ryan's message. She walked to a control panel that had been locked and sealed for 300 years. Inside was a single red button labeled Titan Protocol. "Peter, evacuate all non-essential personnel from this sector," she ordered. "We're about to test the planet cracker." The Titan Protocol activated a weapon that humans had built inside a small moon in an empty star system. The moon was not really a moon at all, but a massive weapon platform, disguised to look like a natural satellite. The weapon fired a single beam across 3 light-years of space. When it hit the Corvin Reserve Fleet, something impossible happened. The beam did not just destroy the ships. It unraveled them at the atomic level, breaking apart the very matter that composed them. 1,500 ships simply ceased to exist, as if they had never been there at all. The weapon's fire was visible across half the galaxy. Every species with space-based sensors detected the massive energy release. It was like watching a star explode, but focused and controlled. Back on Hegemon Prime, the Coalition leaders watched their screens in horror as their reserve fleet vanished. "What was that?" whispered Chancellor Vio, our single quotes THAK. Dr. Yultara checked her instruments with shaking hands. "Sir, according to our sensors, the humans just destroyed 1,500 ships with a single weapon. The energy output was equivalent to a supernova." "That's impossible," General Zixith said. "No species has that kind of power." "The humans do," Yultara replied. "And based on the energy patterns, that wasn't even their most powerful weapon. It was just a demonstration." As if summoned by their words, the main communication screen activated. Captain Lisa Harper appeared, still sitting in her command center, still smiling. "Leaders of the Hegemony Coalition," she said, "I trust you saw our little demonstration. That was what we call a Category 2 weapon. We have others that are much more powerful." Vorthik found his voice. "What do you want?" "The same thing we've always wanted, peace. But not the kind of peace you're offering. We want the kind of peace that comes from everyone understanding that war is not an option." "You're talking about surrender," said General Zixith. "I'm talking about survival," Lisa replied. "Your species have two choices. You can accept humanity's protection and guidance, or you can continue this war and discover what our Category 3 weapons can do." "What are Category 3 weapons?" Vorthik asked, though he was not sure he wanted to know. Lisa's smile disappeared. "Let's just say that if we use them, this conversation will be pointless because there won't be anyone left to surrender." The communication ended, leaving the Coalition leaders alone with the weight of their decision. "Chancellor," Dr. Yultara said quietly, "I've been analyzing human space for the past 3 days. Based on what I've seen, I believe they could destroy every Coalition world simultaneously if they wanted to." "How many of these super weapons do they have?" "Sir, I think every human system has weapons like the one they just demonstrated. Maybe several. They've turned their entire civilization into a war machine." Vorthek looked around the table at his fellow leaders. Fear had replaced anger in their eyes. Pride had been replaced by the desperate desire to survive. "What do we do?" he asked. General Zixith spoke first. "We surrender. We have no choice." One by one, the other leaders nodded their agreement. The greatest military alliance in galactic history was beaten, not by a superior army, but by a species that had spent 1,000 years preparing for this exact moment. "Contact the humans," Vorthik said. "Tell them we want to discuss terms." The surrender ceremony took place on the same space station where the war had begun just 3 weeks earlier. Confluence Point had been damaged during the brief conflict, but human repair crews had fixed it with technology that impressed even the station's builders. Captain Lisa Harper walked through the corridors toward the main assembly hall, but this time she was not alone. Admiral Jake Morrison walked beside her, along with General Marcus Stone, Dr. Amanda Cross, and Commander Ryan Blake. The leaders of humanity's secret military had come out of hiding to witness the end of the shortest war in galactic history. "Are you ready for this?" Jake asked Lisa as they approached the hall. "I've been ready for this moment my whole life," Lisa replied. "My grandmother was ready for it, and her grandmother before her. 40 generations of humans have been waiting for this day." They entered the hall, and Lisa saw that it was packed with representatives from hundreds of species. Not just the Coalition members who had declared war, but neutral species who had come to witness the new order being born. The Hegemony Coalition leaders sat in the center of the hall, looking like they had aged years in just 3 weeks. "Chancellor." Vorthek stood as the humans approached, his normally proud bearing replaced by the posture of a defeated enemy. "Captain Harper," he said formally, The Hegemony Coalition surrenders unconditionally to humanity. We place ourselves at your mercy and await your terms." Lisa nodded and walked to the center of the hall. Around her, representatives from hundreds of worlds watched in silence. This moment would be remembered for thousands of years. "The war is over," Lisa announced, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. "Humanity accepts the surrender of the Hegemony Coalition and all its member species." Murmurs rippled through the assembled aliens. Many had expected harsh terms, demands for territory, or calls for revenge. "However," Lisa continued, "humanity has no interest in conquest or punishment. We fought this war not to gain power, but to establish peace." She activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. "From this day forward, the galaxy will be organized under a new system. The Galactic Federation will replace the old system of competing alliances and constant conflict." "What does this mean for our worlds?" asked Ambassador Kreldon from the Altarian delegation. "It means you get to keep your worlds," Lisa said. "All of them. Humanity will not take a single planet from any species that accepts Federation membership." The hall erupted in surprised voices. This was not what anyone had expected from a victorious species. Lisa raised her hand for silence. "The Federation will operate under 3 simple principles. First, all conflicts between member species will be resolved through negotiation and Federation arbitration. Second, all species will contribute to the common defense according to their abilities. Third, humanity will provide protection for any species that requests it." Chancellor Vorthek looked confused. "What do you gain from this arrangement?" "Peace," General Stone said, stepping forward. "Real peace. The kind that lasts because everyone understands that war is not profitable." Dr. Amanda Cross activated another display, showing the weapons that had ended the war. "Humanity spent 1,000 years preparing for conflict because we learned from our own history. War only ends when one side is so powerful that fighting becomes pointless. But why share that power?" asked Counselor Hexara from the Vorthan Empire. "Why not simply rule through fear?" Lisa smiled the same way she had when the war began. "Because ruling through fear is exhausting. It requires constant vigilance, constant threats, constant conflict. We prefer a system where everyone benefits." From Peace, Commander Ryan Blake stepped forward. "The Federation will be governed by a council with representatives from every member species. Humanity will provide military protection and technological advancement, while each species contributes their unique knowledge and resources. And if we refuse to join," asked a representative from one of the neutral species. "Then you remain independent," Lisa said. "But you also remain unprotected. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and there are threats out there worse than the ones you know about." Dr. Cross nodded grimly. "The architects warned us about species from outside our galaxy. Dark entities that consume entire civilizations. The Federation is not just about preventing wars between us. It's about preparing for the day when something truly dangerous arrives." The mention of the architects caused a stir throughout the hall. Most species knew the legends of the ancient race that had disappeared mysteriously centuries ago. "The architects left us their knowledge," General Stone explained, "including warnings about what exists beyond our galactic borders." Humanity's military preparations were not just for fighting other species. They were for defending against threats that could destroy us all. Lisa walked to where the coalition leaders sat. This war was unfortunate, but it served a purpose. It demonstrated to everyone that humanity has the strength to protect the galaxy. Now we can work together instead of wasting resources on conflicts between ourselves. She extended her hand to Chancellor Vorthak. "Will the Hegemony Coalition join the Galactic Federation as equal members?" Vorthak looked at her hand for a long moment. 3 weeks ago, he had been planning to divide human space among coalition members. Now humanity was offering him equality in an organization they completely controlled. What guarantees do we have that humanity will not abuse this power? He asked. Admiral Morrison stepped forward. The same guarantee you had before this war started. If humanity had wanted to conquer the galaxy, we could have done it centuries ago. We had the power. We chose not to use it. Instead, we built a civilization based on peaceful expansion and scientific advancement, Dr. Cross added. War is inefficient. We prefer to win through being better than our opponents, not by destroying them. Vorthek finally took Lisa's hand. The Hegemony Coalition accepts membership in the Galactic Federation. One by one, representatives from other species came forward to join. Some were motivated by fear of humanity's weapons. Others were attracted by the promise of technological advancement and protection. A few were simply tired of constant conflict and wanted to try something new. Within hours, over 300 species had joined the Federation. The galaxy had been united under human leadership without humanity firing another shot. As the ceremony ended, Lisa found herself standing with her military commanders on an observation deck overlooking the space around Confluence Point. Human ships moved through the area with casual efficiency, beginning the work of establishing the new order. Was it worth it? Jake asked. 1,000 years of preparation for a 3-week war? Look around, Lisa replied, gesturing at the ships from dozens of species working together to repair the station. In 3 weeks, we ended thousands of years of galactic conflict. We united species that have been enemies for millennia. We created the foundation for a peace that could last forever. General Stone nodded. The architects told us that the greatest victory is the war you never have to fight. We spent 1,000 years preparing for this war so thoroughly that it was over before it really began. And now? Dr. Cross asked. Now we do what humans do best, Lisa said. We build, we explore, we advance. But this time, we do it with the entire galaxy working together instead of against each other. Commander Blake pointed to the edge of the system, where human ships were already beginning to establish new patrol routes. The Ghost Fleet will become the Federation Defense Force. Instead of hiding in alternate dimensions, we'll patrol the galactic borders, watching for external threats. The weapons research will continue, Dr. Cross added. But now we'll be developing defenses against truly alien threats, not fighting among ourselves. 6 months later, the first Federation Council meeting was held on a new station built cooperatively by dozens of species. Lisa Harper was elected as the first Supreme Coordinator, a position she would hold for the rest of her extended life. In her acceptance speech, she said the words that would become the Federation's motto. We spent 1,000 years learning how to fight wars so that we would never have to fight them. We discovered that the best way to win a war is to be so prepared for it that your enemies prefer peace. The Galactic Federation lasted for over 10,000 years, becoming the longest period of peace in galactic history. During that time, no member species ever fought a war against another member. The few external threats that did appear were dealt with swiftly by the Federation Defense Force using weapons that made the Coalition's defeat look gentle by comparison. Historians would later call it the Great Peace, but humans preferred a simpler name. They called it Tuesday because for them, it was just another day of being more prepared than everyone else. The 1,000-year peace was indeed over. But it had been replaced by something much better, a peace that would last as long as humanity remained ready to defend it.